Law enforcement across the state of Texas starting to see road rage violence become a growing issue, how it's impacting the Brazos Valley. Plus, many of us had vacations planned for this summer that may be affected by the surge of the Delta variant. So what do you do now?
And we are looking at partly cloudy skies across the area and seasonably hot out there. Nothing too drastic. Will it be warming up into your weekend? Your 25 News starts right now.
Connecting the Brazos Valley. This is KRHD News.
Good evening and thank you for joining us for KRHD News at 6. I'm Hallie Jones. Law enforcement all across Texas is seeing an increase in violent road rage incidents. And as KRHD reporter Rachel Espayat shows us, it's impacting the Brazos Valley as well.
The state of Texas is second to Florida for state with the most road rage cases with firearms.
You have no idea, A, what state of mind those other drivers are in or what they might be carrying.
Since there is no way of knowing, steering clear of aggressive behaviors or drivers on the road will help protect you from a potential danger.
Aggressive driving is the catalyst to road rage.
TxDOT reports nearly 1,400 accidents across the state involving road rage in 2020. 9 of those cases were fatal.
If somebody is obviously driving more aggressively and doing something that they shouldn't, the safest thing to do is to disengage from that, separate yourself as much as possible.
When you're in the driver's seat, the only thing you can control is your own actions. So if you spot an aggressive driver on the road, the best thing you can do is create distance between yourself and that driver. Speeding, cutting off, and using a shoulder lane to pass others are all signs of aggressive driving. In Brazos County, Rachel Espayat, KRHD News.
Anything you have to say to the Castro family?
Masked up, walking silently, and ignoring my questions. Gerald Williams put in handcuffs and arrested almost 1 month after 17-year-old David Castro was killed.
He vehemently, from day one, from speaking with me, has said he's innocent and that he did not shoot and kill anyone.
Houston police say Williams was driving a white Buick on July 6th when he was involved in a road rage incident with Castro's father. Castro was driving his 2 sons home from the Astros game when he exchanged hand gestures with the driver. Well, not long after, police say the driver fired shots into their truck, killing the 17-year-old passenger. Police say they received over 100 tips, something Paul Castro is thankful for.
And that came in because y'all were touched by this story and you could see your own children in my son.
One of those tips led police to the white Buick. The court records show someone found a sales ad for a car that looked identical to the suspects. Police were able to track down the seller who led them to Williams. According to the documents, officers later found that car a street away from Williams' home torched. Williams, no stranger to law enforcement. In 2008, he was convicted for robbing 2 Family Dollar stores and sentenced to 13 years behind bars. But despite his checkered past, Quanell X says Williams did not kill Castro and has an alibi.
That he was present at a party, at a gathering of many friends and strangers with whom he may not have even known that can put him at that party at the very time of the shooting.
Police say they're not buying it. Chief Troy Finner has this message to the community.
We will not stand by and allow people to brutally murder and harm our citizens and do nothing about it. We're going to stand strong as a police department.
And Brazos County Crime Stoppers needs your help finding a man who is wanted in connection to a road rage shooting in College Station. Eduardo Reyes Ortiz is wanted on 2 warrants for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. The warrants stem from a road rage shooting that occurred July 14th in College Station. If you see Reyes Ortiz or have any information on his whereabouts, call Brazos County Crime Stoppers. You could receive a cash reward for information that leads to his arrest. And the Texas Department of Insurance says road rage behaviors can be a criminal offense. These behaviors include things like cursing or making rude gestures at other drivers, throwing objects at another vehicle, ramming or sideswiping a vehicle, forcing a driver off the road, or physically assaulting a driver. And according to the 2016 survey of U.S. drivers, approximately 12% cut off other drivers on purpose. 33% said they gesture obscenities while driving. 45% admit to honking out of anger or frustration. 47% say they yell at other drivers. And finally, over half of U.S. drivers say they tailgate on purpose. So how do you avoid road rage confrontation? The TDI says the first step is to avoid eye contact as it increases the chance for confrontation. You also should not respond to aggression with aggression. Be tolerant and forgiving. You can also report aggressive drivers by calling 311. Include the vehicle description, location, and license plate number if possible. And finally, if you feel threatened or concerned for your safety, call 911 and drive to a public place, especially to a police station if possible. And don't forget to connect with KRHD online for the latest on what's happening across the Brazos Valley. Take out your phones, open your camera app, and scan the QR code that you see here on your screen. You'll see a notification banner at the top of your phone screen. Tap that banner and you will have access to a link with our website and all of our social media accounts. While Texas House Democrats remain in D.C., the special legislative session is nearing its end. The 30-day session is set to end this Saturday. The more than 50 legislators who left to Washington, D.C. say they plan on staying until the session ends. It's unclear what they plan to do afterwards. Governor Abbott has said he will continue to call sessions until election measures are passed. Meanwhile, the Texas House Democrat caucus says they cannot account for 2 members who broke quorum. According to a report by the Texas Monthly, Julia Johnson of Farmers Branch and Jessica Gonzalez of Dallas are in Portugal for a vacation they planned a year and a half in advance. In a text exchange with the San Antonio Express News, Gonzalez says the Portugal trip is a rumor. A former College Station assistant police chief is now making history through a major role at the Texas Alcohol Beverage Commission, or TABC. KRHD reporter Rebecca Fiedler brings us more on the appointment of Brandy Norris.
Brandy Norris, a recently retired College Station assistant police chief, was just sworn in yesterday as the new chief of law enforcement over the TABC.
According to the TABC, this appointment marks the first time in Texas history that a woman has been designated such a high leadership role over a statewide police force.
Chief Norris joined the TABC, overseeing its criminal intelligence unit, just 7 months ago after retiring from College Station PD following a 23-year career there. Shortly after her entry to the agency, she was approached by her higher-ups about accepting the role of chief. Norris has had years of experience leading and guiding multiple entities in a department, according to her former colleagues at CSPD.
If you take care of your people will take care of you. And I've come to learn that if you just give people an opportunity to talk and give them an ear for them to talk to, that even if you can't fix the problem, it means a lot for them to just know that you take the time to listen to them.
Norris will continue to work out of Bryan College Station, as she has been determined to stay in the county where she grew up. She'll be able to maintain a relationship with the department, whom she credits with helping her get to where she is now.
Reporting in Bryan, Rebecca Fiedler, KRHD News.
As the Delta variant continues to spread, more than half of vaccinated people say they'll continue wearing masks in public. Only about a third of people who are not vaccinated say they'll wear masks. That's according to a survey by the Kaiser Family Foundation. While the survey says opinions are mostly segregated by political party, messaging from lawmakers isn't doing much to persuade the non-vaccinated. And the Delta variant now accounts for more than 93% of COVID cases in the U.S. New data from the CDC shows a rapid increase over the past few months. In May, the Delta variant only accounted for about 3% of cases. Now some states show even higher numbers at 98%. This latest surge in COVID-19 cases comes just as travel was getting back to pre-pandemic levels. Now some are wondering if their vacations could be in trouble. Consumer reporter John Matteries has the steps you can take if you're planning a trip so you don't waste your money.
Just when we started traveling again, booking airline tickets, casino vacations, and even cruises, the COVID Delta variant started spreading. So what should we do now? Airports are bustling, hotels are booking up, and travel has returned.
I can't wait to get out and just relax.
But that return to travel normalcy.
The FDA is working to fully approve Pfizer's COVID vaccine by the end of summer. Health officials hope that the status will motivate more Americans to get vaccinated, and it could also prompt more vaccine mandates and speed up the approval process for kids under 12.
When you have an EUA for the vaccine that then goes to a full approval, that might have an influence on what goes on. We're collecting the data right now for what we need to make that determination.
Now, in the meantime, more kids are getting sick with COVID. There's a 33,000 case increase last week compared to the week before. The World Health Organization has already told people not to seek a third booster shot, and now the agency is calling for an official moratorium, citing vaccine inequity around the world. Now, it would last at least 2 months. The WHO's director wants to meet a goal of vaccinating 10% of every country's population by the end of September. This moratorium could last longer if that goal isn't met. Now, meanwhile, health officials in San Francisco are allowing an additional COVID shot under some specific circumstances. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is proving to be only 60% effective against the Delta variant. People who receive the J&J shot and have a recommendation from their doctor are eligible for an mRNA vaccine in San Francisco. Now, some people have started to get cancer screenings again after these numbers were way down last year. But medical experts are worried that people are still delaying these appointments, and that could be putting them at risk for being diagnosed with cancer at more advanced stages. Research from the Community Oncology Alliance shows there was an 85% drop in breast cancer screenings in 2020. For colon cancer screenings, it was down 75%.
Even when rates of COVID are increased and we all have fear and trepidation about going out into the community, it is safe to see your medical professional. When you go out and into a clinic, you should be masked, but that it's a safe thing to have happen. And it is something that makes such a world of difference in our ability to diagnose cancer early and cure it.
Community Oncology Alliance and Cancer Care have launched a new campaign called Time to Screen. The oncologist that we talked with says it will likely take years to catch up with all the missed screenings. All cancer screenings are important, but some could have even greater priority.
Breast, colon, and lung cancer and cervical cancer are all the most evidence-based screens where clearly early detection saves lives.
Now, she's concerned about Black Americans who she says are having greater challenges in getting screened during the pandemic than others. Black American adults have higher death rates than all other racial and ethnic groups for many cancer types. Cancer is also the leading cause of death among Hispanic adults. You can get connected to screening locations close to you at timetoscreen.org. You can also get those locations by calling the number you see on your screen, 1-855-53-SCREEN. Certain communities are more likely to fall for one scam versus another. The tactics that Black and brown communities need to be aware of.
Private companies across the country added 330,000 jobs in July. That's less than half of what economists originally estimated. The Dow Jones projected 653,000 jobs would be added. This marks the slowest job growth since February. ADP says fears over the Delta variant spreading were a factor. Meanwhile, economists say people are not only shopping more, they're also charging more to their credit cards. But while balances are higher, they are still below pre-pandemic levels. Researchers say that's likely because people were able to pay down some of those balances after receiving stimulus checks and unemployment benefits. Not only are people spending more, they're also applying for more credit cards and actually getting approved. CVS says it plans to pay its workers at least $15 an hour by next summer. The pharmacy chain made the announcement today. The current minimum wage at CVS is $11 an hour. The company says it will begin increasing wages this month to meet its goal by next July. More than half of hourly employees at CVS already make more than $15 an hour. And Ticketmaster reports its revenue has shot up more than 600% in the most recent quarter. People bought more concert tickets, and attendance is also pacing faster than expected. June was one of their top 4 months ever in terms of ticket volume. Most festivals sold out quickly, and prices are up about 10% from 2019. Now let's head on over to First Alert Chief Meteorologist Matt Hines for the weather.
And we have seen a few clouds across the area for today, and you can see a lot of that's been about from Bryan College Station down in the south, where we've even seen a few isolated showers across our far southern areas as you head down into Washington County. But other than that, things have been pretty quiet. Notice how the clouds are starting to creep up to the north just a little bit. So some return flow, some southerly winds will start to creep in over the next 24 hours, and that will start to bring that higher humidity value back into the region. That's been across the I-10 corridor and down across South Texas. There are a couple showers across southeastern Oklahoma, back into the Texas Panhandle with another little disturbance there, and in between, not too much happening from Dallas all the way here through Bryan College Station. So let's check out our future track showing that we will have partly cloudy skies as we make our way through the overnight hours tonight. Moisture levels will continue to go up a bit, and then that could bring some isolated showers as we head into tomorrow. We're going to go about a 20% chance of rain, even though the future track's not showing too much here. Then as we get into Friday, we'll probably do it again, maybe an isolated storm or two, partly cloudy skies, temperatures slightly below normal, likely into the middle 90s as we head into Friday afternoon. So let's check out what we are anticipating for tonight. Temperatures down into the 70s, 72 in Hearn and Rockdale. Same for Bryan College Station, around 74 over toward Anderson and Navasota. So pretty uniform across the area. And then tomorrow highs will make it up into the low to mid 90s. And again, that's about 4 or 5 degrees below normal for this time of year, if we can just keep that trend going in August. But I do think those temperatures are going to creep closer to that normal value as we get closer to the weekend. 93 Thursday, 94 Friday. There's your 20% chance of an isolated storm. Then we will keep it on the drier side as we head into the weekend. 97 by Sunday and Monday. And again, that's where we're supposed to be this time of year. And then 96 to 98 throughout next week, and maybe 1 or 2 days where we'll have an isolated storm, but it does look like we're in the dog days of summer right now.
New York City is now the first in the country to require a vaccine to enter certain businesses. Now, this won't go into effect until mid-September, but it is part of a conversation that is being had all across the country. Dan Grossman explores how it's being received.
Hi, how you doing?
With every pleasantry exchanged at Palmetto Steakhouse
What's the name for the reservation?
comes the immediate exchange
Cool. And do you both have proof of your vaccination on you today?
of more personal info.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
To some, it might feel invasive.
It was never about making a position on vaccination. This has always been what does the staff feel comfortable with.
But to the Palmetto's owner, Matt Reagan, it feels right.
At the end of the day, it is a business decision. We don't want to turn anybody away, but we do want to make our staff feel safe, and we want our clientele that is asking for it.
So why are we in California? The area is among a handful of places moving quickly to consider a more formal measure of this sort, requiring vaccinations or a negative COVID test before entering certain places.
It's complicated.
It's not an easy issue to navigate, but it has garnered more support than Executive Director of the Golden Gate Restaurant Association, Lori Thomas, first expected.
We are strongly supportive of all employers requiring employees to be vaccinated if they don't have the two legal exemptions, which are one, a real religious exemption, or two, a valid medical exemption.
Of the association's more than 800 restaurants, 66% responded in a survey saying they were in favor of an indoor mask mandate. 63% said they were in favor of an indoor dining vaccine mandate. And 58% said they were supportive of requiring vaccinations of all their employees.
Table 45.
Admittedly, this isn't a universal feeling in restaurants and cities across the country. While the policy is being considered in several states and major cities, New York just became the first to approve the measure. A large number of states, 22 in fact, have either passed or drafted legislation banning a vaccine passport, and the remaining 23 states have either given opinions on it or said they'll leave it up to the private sector.
40 years ago, there wasn't an ATM machine, and you had to go to the bank on Friday and get all the money that you expected to spend. It's the same thing. Thursday afternoon or Thursday on your lunch break, go get a coronavirus test, and you can go to cool places on the weekend.
The Palmetto is the private sector using its authority over such decisions at work.
I would screenshot that because it's probably going to become a pretty regular thing with the restaurants and bars in the area.
Using the disclosure of some personal info in exchange for what those here feel is security.
We don't let people drink and drive, because that could be their choice and they could kill themselves. But here's the problem. They could go over the line and kill a family with kids or kill anybody. And then that is where you're jeopardizing the rest of the community. And so that's not allowed. And this is a very similar analogy.
I'm Dan Grossman.
All right, Dan, thank you. Now, the National Restaurant Association says it supports vaccination for everyone, but with New York City's new policy, it is concerned about the new responsibility where restaurants will have to verify vaccination status without training to do this. Brings up the backlash from enforcing mask mandates at restaurants. So restaurants are asking for clear guidance and support on the vaccine requirement. All scams are not created equal. Some tug at your heartstrings, others are crimes of opportunity. And now we know specific communities need more education on what types of fraud they are most likely to come across.
These criminals out here are targeting the Black community, and we want to make sure that these resources that we are providing can help you if you have been a victim of fraud.
AARP recently found that Black and Latino adults fall for grandparent scams more than any others. And that's when someone impersonating a grandchild or impersonating an attorney for a grandchild claims that they need money to get the person out of trouble.
And these criminals are so very savvy now, particularly with everybody home.
Now, for Black Americans, work from home scams were especially effective. Also, affinity investment scams. Affinity fraud is when someone preys on communities that share similar beliefs or culture. Now, a Texas couple featured on a reality TV show were recently accused in multiple lawsuits of preying on needy Black families through faith. They allegedly promised people that they would get a financial blessing eightfold by investing $1,400 of their own money in a pyramid scheme. Now, 60% of Black adults are also likely to be repeat scam victims.
And we all know that most things are not free, right? And so make sure you're not giving out personal information.
In addition to specific education, AARP found that Black and Latino adults could benefit by adding their phone numbers to the Do Not Call registry and using robocall blockers and password managers. Now get ready to start your holiday shopping really early.
You thought last fall was bad? This is going to be worse.
Why experts say all those shortages that we've been dealing with are setting us up for a big delay during the holidays, why shopping in store may actually be a better option than going online. As we see more shortages in stores and online, experts are warning that we get our holiday shopping done now. Yeah, in August. Fillogic helps retailers and delivery networks work more efficiently, and they say if you order something right now, your items could be delivered in 3 weeks if you're lucky. But it's possible it could even take months.
You have situations where you've containers in one country, the boats are on the other side of the ocean, chassis aren't there, labor's not there. It's a pretty interesting situation that we're kind of in the midst of.
Now that's in addition to businesses reopening and trying to catch up with demand that built up during the pandemic. Parcel carriers are also charging more for shipping, but picking items up less often. This year, it's unlikely retailers will guarantee delivery before Christmas. Black Friday is also expected to be different.
The deals will start earlier and they will last longer because unfortunately, if you have those big spikes in demand, traffic as far as what gets purchased, both in stores and online, you're continuing to struggle through the issue of the transportation networks may not be able to support that demand.
Items that have parts made in other countries but are assembled in the U.S. will likely take the longest to ship and deliver. An alternative to ordering online is shopping in person. The bigger mall chains are more likely to have a bigger stock and selection. The number of bees continues to go down, and that's putting crops like blueberries and apples that they pollinate at risk. How the first dog in the country that specializes in finding bumblebee nests could be part of the solution to preventing more declines.
WTAW's Zach Taylor is back today with more on what's happening around the world of sports.
Here's your 25 sports update with WTAW's Zach Taylor.
Hey KRHD viewers, the NCAA has released new COVID-19 guidelines for the upcoming fall season. Athletes and staff who are not fully vaccinated will be subjected to weekly tests. Meanwhile, those who have received the vaccine won't be required to take a test unless they first show symptoms. Aggie heptathlete Annie Kuntz currently sits in 4th place at the Tokyo Olympics. Now, Kuntz will continue her competition tonight. Meanwhile, Team USA currently leads in total medal count with 79, but trails China in gold medal count 32-25. After dropping Game 1 of their TCL playoff series to San Antonio last night, the Brazos Valley Bombers turn around to visit the Flying Chocolates tonight at 7:05. In the big leagues, the Houston Astros will face new Dodgers acquisition Max Scherzer this evening. First pitch for that one is at 8:40 in Los Angeles. Meanwhile, the Texas Rangers look to bounce back from yesterday's loss to the LA Angels when they host the Halos again tonight at Globe Life Field. Things get underway at 7:05. From the WTAW Sports Studio, I'm Zach Taylor.
We turn now to the latest in Tokyo. The U.S. track and field team shining last night. 3 first-time Olympians from the U.S. were hoping to medal in the men's 200-meter final, and 2 of them did. American Kenny Bednarek won silver, while Noah Lyles earned the bronze. They came in behind Andre DeGrasse, who finished with the best time ever for a Canadian. On the women's side, a new world record in the 400-meter hurdles. American track star Sydney McLaughlin broke her previous record and edged out teammate Dalila Muhammad for the gold.
We've definitely made it something very interesting. Every time you step on the track, there seems to be some sort of record broken. So it's really cool to be a part of that and kind of just push the boundaries of what's possible for us.
And in her first Olympic appearance, Gabby Thomas won the bronze in the 200-meter final. Allison Felix had already made history by qualifying for her 5th Olympics. The 6-time gold medalist finished second in her heat of the 400-meter semifinals, earning her a spot in Friday's final. Looking now at the Olympic leaderboard, the U.S. still out in front, increasing their lead on China to 9 total medals. The Chinese team leading the world in gold medals with 32, the U.S. following behind at 25. The Russian Olympic Committee, Great Britain, and Japan fill out the rest of the top 5. Tonight, the U.S. will take on Australia in the men's basketball semifinals.
Right now, the Delta variant accounts for about 93% of U.S. COVID cases. It's a story that tops the news feed. New data from the CDC shows a rapid increase over the past few months. In May, Delta cases were only estimated around 3%. Now certain states like Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska show even higher numbers at 98%. Globally, more than 4 million new COVID cases were reported in the last week. The latest WHO report shows that the highest numbers in the U.S., India, Indonesia, Brazil, and Iran. Now, infections have increased over the month. The UN Health Agency says the number of deaths have dropped by 8%. Private companies across the country added 330,000 jobs in July, less than half of original estimates. Now, the Dow Jones estimated 653,000 jobs for June. ADP says fears over the COVID Delta variant spread did play a factor. Bees are a crucial part to keeping our environment in balance. Without them, billions of dollars in crops could be lost and many species of plants could become extinct. In just the last few years, 1/3 of the bee population in the U.S. sharply declined. Many scientists are trying to figure out how to preserve these priceless pollinators, and Alexa Liaco shows us how a dog could be the answer.
He may not have a PhD, but you're looking at a dedicated scientist.
He's having the best time of his life.
And if you can get him to sit still, you'll learn.
This is America's first conservation detection dog, Darwin, the bee dog. He is the only dog in America that specializes in finding bumblebee nests.
Every day, Darwin suits up.
Here, goggles.
And he and his owner, researcher Jacqueline Staub, look for underground bee nests in the mountains of Colorado.
There is nothing like an alpine meadow in the middle of the summer, just covered in wildflowers. Like, this place is just a dream to work.
Her beautiful office abuzz with information only Darwin can uncover.
Not a lot is known about bumblebee nesting because they're so hard to find. And basically the only way you can find an exact location of a bumblebee nest is just serendipitously stumbling upon one, or detection dogs, which is why he's so important.
Darwin sniffs out the material the nests are made of, giving his signature point when he's found his target.
Good boy!
He's fetching data Jacqueline and her team from Appalachian State University in North Carolina never dreamed they could find.
Bombus incognitus. You can look it up.
The nests Darwin finds show Jacqueline how these bees survive harsh conditions and what flowers they like.
This is the nesting material that he's looking for.
Every discovery precious to preserving these pollinators.
You need to know all the pieces of the puzzle. If you're going to save a species, you can't just focus on one thing that they need.
Especially when there's been a lot less buzzing happening across the country.
1/3 of bumblebee species right now are facing decline.
So what are some of the reasons that bees are disappearing?
So there's actually a lot going against them right now. So as we all know, the big one, climate change.
Bees are losing their land to people through agriculture and expanding cities. But without these bees, one study found the crops they pollinate, like cherries, blueberries, apples, and watermelon, could struggle to survive. Losing bees creates a trickle-down effect. Without bees pollinating the plants, we lose plant diversity. Without plants, we lose the animals, and suddenly this entire ecosystem looks completely different.
There's going to be a wide range of ecological consequences.
So that's why Jacqueline wanders the woods for hours each day, looking for tiny holes in the earth. It's these windows to a different world that can help turn a sour situation sweet.
If we really start working now and working towards preserving the pollinators, preserving land, figuring out what they need for nesting, it's not all doom and gloom. Like, we can work together and preserve our precious native pollinators.
You're the best bee boy? Yeah. Especially with man's best friend lending a helping paw. I'm Alexa Liaco reporting.
And it has been a hot day here across the area, but again, temperatures really not too bad for early August, into the lower 90s. And it looks like that we're probably going to see that again as we head into Thursday with partly cloudy skies across the area. Maybe a little more moisture stacked up in the atmosphere, so an isolated storm can't be ruled out, even though this isn't showing too much. We're going to throw about a 20% chance in, and the same for Friday, as we'll start off with some clouds in the morning, partly cloudy skies into the afternoon. You know, the same old song and dance that we've been seeing here over the past few weeks, as we're seeing those temperatures again slightly below normal. Temperatures will be into the low to mid 70s in the morning. Madisonville around 72, 74 Caldwell and Bryan College Station down to Brenham. And then tomorrow, highs into the low to mid 90s, and it'll feel like it's in the mid to upper 90s, but it could be a lot worse this time of year, as we have had it in the past where temperatures have been exceeding the hundreds, and we've had heat advisories and all sorts of things. Not right now. 93 on Thursday, 94 on Friday. Isolated thunderstorms possible. We'll keep it dry over the weekend with partly cloudy skies. Highs right around 96, 97 degrees. That will go right on into next week. 96 to 98 each and every day, with partly cloudy skies, maybe an isolated storm scattered about here or there. But overall, not looking too bad here across the region, as temperatures will be at or slightly below normal, especially as we round out this week. So we aren't looking too bad here across the region.
Starting this fall, Target will offer debt-free education to frontline workers. It's a story that tops the news feed. Target will offer free undergraduate and associate degree programs along with certificates in business. Workers, even first day on the job employees, can attend classes at more than 40 schools around the country, and textbooks will be free. There is a lot of pressure to overspend when it comes to back to school shopping, and creditcards.com found that millennial parents feel the most pressure. Money experts say involving your kids in the buying decisions can reduce the pressure and teach your kids about money as well. Now, if you've recently received a text message about your unemployment insurance benefits, you are not alone. Identity thieves posing as state workforce agencies are using these phishing texts to steal personal information, unemployment benefits, or both. Now, if you do get a message just like this one, don't reply or click on any link. State agencies do not send text messages asking for personal information.
I'm Chris Conti, standing here along the banks of the Mississippi River. Well, it's not actually the Mississippi River. It's an exact replica model that engineers are looking at to study the impacts of climate change and rising sea levels. Tomorrow, how their research could give us a better understanding of what's to come, not just in coastal communities, but other places where flooding is a problem.
Chris, thank you. And still to come today.
It was hard to imagine that we had a drug that would take cancers and cause them to just disappear in a matter of days.
How researchers say that new drug could be a game changer against the most common and deadly forms of breast cancer. A potential breakthrough in treating metastatic breast cancer. Early findings from animal tests in mice show a new treatment can kill 95 to 100% of cancer cells. The drug can even shrink large tumors and works in just days. Usher Qureshi is looking into the newly published research that could one day save countless lives.
All the tumors have been eradicated, they've been destroyed, and they're no longer detectable.
When biochemistry professor David Shapiro first saw these images, he couldn't believe his eyes.
It was hard to imagine that we had a drug that would take cancers and cause them to just disappear in a matter of days.
But that's just what they found. The compound known as URSO selectively exploits the pathway that shields cancer cells from being killed off by anti-cancer drugs.
We hijack this pathway with the drug, and instead of just tweaking it a little bit to help the cell grow, we turn it on so high that the cell just shuts everything down.
The imaging is startling.
This is breast cancer that has metastasized to the upper spine, to the lung, to the liver, and also the lower spine. Untreated, this mouse would die within a week or two.
Just 7 days after treatment, the tumors have been destroyed, the cancer eradicated. 4 months later, without additional treatment, no detectable tumors.
We have been making these kinds of drugs for over a decade, and none of them ever did anything remotely like that.
Professor Shapiro and his team of scientists at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign published their findings in the journal Science Translational Medicine. Researchers say URSO can target the most common and deadly forms of breast cancer.
Metastatic cancer is very difficult. You can't really cure it currently. You could treat it, you can slow it down, but eventually pretty much all the patients with metastatic breast cancer die.
The findings were so impressive that a year before the study was even published, pharmaceutical company Bayer bought the exclusive licensing rights in a deal worth up to $370 million to develop URSO as a cancer therapy.
The hope is that this one could move quickly, that there'll be fairly dramatic results in people as well.
Researchers' next task is to test the drug against other kinds of cancer. URSO would still need to clear clinical trials over the next few years to test for safety and efficacy in humans before it could be marketed. But Shapiro says there is considerable optimism.
I think if you're a researcher, you hope that someday in your life you'll do something that might actually help people.
Reporting from Urbana, Illinois, I'm Usher Qureshi.
Now check stories making our newsfeed. COVID resurgence has led former President Obama to scale back his birthday plans. He turned 60 years old today. There is an outdoor party set for this weekend at the Obama's Martha's Vineyard home that got widespread attention for its large guest list, and now citing Delta concerns, it is now limited to just family and close friends. If ticket sales are any indication people are ready to get back to big events, Ticketmaster reported sales and concert attendance is pacing faster than expected. June was one of their top 4 months ever in terms of ticket volume. Most festivals sold out quickly and prices are up about 10% from pre-COVID times. Meanwhile, one of the biggest music entertainers is reconsidering his live tour. Garth Brooks will still play his next 2 stops in Missouri and Nebraska, but ticket sales are paused for an event after that, which is supposed to be in Seattle. The tour is now reassessing things with COVID cases rising. The Grammys just committed to more diversity for next year's show. The Academy is now requiring producers recruit and hire more diverse candidates to work backstage and in front of cameras. It's part of an initiative created in part with groups like Color of Change. The groups are working to create new rules to undo racial exclusion within the entertainment industry. Now, getting women into those behind-the-scenes music roles is an issue as well. Women have long seen this gap. New research by the University of Southern California is breaking down the numbers. Now, there is good news. Forrest Sanders shows us how some groups are working to make change.
Hello?
13 years old in a recording studio.
There's no echo whatsoever.
This is pretty big for Brooklyn Nichols of Chandler, Arizona. This Nashville-based OmniSound Studios is where Miranda Lambert recorded country hits, where mixing took place for Jewel's 12 million selling Pieces of You. And for 8th grade Brooklyn, there's a lot to learn, like the mechanics of everything in the studio, like how music producers are fueled by peanut M&Ms.
I'm only 13 and I get to do all of this.
Brooklyn's here in a city that honors women in music with murals of Diana, Aretha, Patsy, Loretta, Amy, Janice, Joni, Billie, Dolly. And what brings Brooklyn here is a new effort toward change in the industry. A new study by the University of Southern California, Annenberg, looks at Billboard's 100 most popular songs for each year from 2012 to 2020. The biggest differences in gender are behind-the-scenes roles. The study finds 87.4% of the songwriters for those hits are men, compared to 12.6% of the songwriters being women. When you look at how many of the hits are written only by women, that takes the number down to less than 1%. Other numbers will count in that music producer superfuel, peanut M&Ms. The study says looking at those 900 big hits, men outnumbered women as music producers by 38 to 1.
Well, it's true. I mean, historically, like in audio production and engineering.
As women, we are working hard to change that.
And maybe that starts at something like this. Young women from all over the country, like Brooklyn, are here for a weekend experience put on by musicians Sheridan Gates and Mark Tress. It's called New Roots.
Breathe a new air.
The goal of the weekend, and weekends to come, is to give young women a well-rounded education in all areas of the music business.
Don't.
They get recording time and hands-on experience in a major studio. They get lessons in songwriting. They get question and answer sessions with music executives.
So the hope is that their eyes will open to the different possibilities of where they could land.
And specifically as women, to have the resources and the verbiage and the connections to be able to do those things is extremely important.
I loved the way you sang the first verse and the first chorus that time.
There might be like a few times that I messed up, but like you can fix that, right?
Yeah.
Outside OmniSound Studios, there are parking spaces reserved for producer, reserved for engineer. Sheridan and Mark say those titles could one day belong to any one of these women. After all, there's something to keep in mind about those murals around town. In addition to being great singers, these are trailblazers, songwriters, producers. And just like Brooklyn, at one time, they had a first day in a studio and
I'm performing my song tomorrow!
a first gig.
That's why I'm still alone. Somebody's got you close when you told me that you weren't ready.
We are focused on helping these younger female artists feel empowered.
Pass the peanut M&Ms. In Nashville, Tennessee, I'm Forrest Sanders.
Thanks for watching Krhd News at 6. Be sure to tune in to tonight at 10 for more news and weather. Until then,